Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, and welcome to our Obi Wan Kenobi Episode 4 breakdown with things you may have missed, Easter eggs, and theories and predictions towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. I have a number of things I'd also like to share with you guys towards the end of the video about this episode. So, let's hop right on into it. One thing I've been loving about this overall show is the way that it leaves off directly from where each episode left off from. We start off with Obi Wan Kenobi badly injured from his duel with Vader in the last previous episode, kind of going in and out of it until he's thrown into a Bacta tank for some healing. And while Obi-Wan is healing in the Bacta tank, so is Vader. So I love the parallels that they gave us with that. Also showing off their injuries and the parallels with that, showing Vader's non-existent hand and Obi-Wan's hand. As well as the burn marks that both Vader has from his duel with Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, and the burn marks that Obi-Wan has just newly gotten in the previous episode. Kenobi is clearly freaked out from his duel with Vader in the previous episode and everything that's gone on. Learning that his former Padawan Anakin Skywalker, his brother, is still alive and furthermore is now transformed into a monster that has now tormented the galaxy and is the reason that the galaxy is the way that it is now. It really reminds me of the Book of Boba Fett, with Boba Fett having these flashbacks as he's in the Bacta tank. Kenobi soonly wakes up from these nightmares and these flashbacks, and the first thing he asks is, where's Leia? It's really showing that growing connection between the two of Leia and Obi-Wan, and he truly does care for her now. Well, that isn't to say that he didn't before, but he cared more for Luke and didn't really want to go on this mission or anything, but he's willing to lay down his life for Leia. We're then brought to Fortress Inquisitoress. This is essentially the base, or an Imperial base, of where the Inquisitors like to hang out. We see it in Jedi Fallen Order as well, the video game. This is where the third sister, Reva, had brought Leia at the end of Episode 3 after killing the pilot that was supposed to bring Traile, Obi-Wan, and Leia to Jabin. Jabin, of course, is a safe world and where they give these Jedis new lives and new identities. Reva is honestly ruthless with this poor 10-year-old girl. She's telling her that Obi-Wan is dead and is being as intimidating as possible. Telling her that Obi-Wan is now dead. I would honestly give Reva full reason to believe that Obi-Wan is actually dead, although she doesn't completely know that. She honestly probably thought that Obi-Wan had died with his duel of Vader. She's essentially holding Leia here to get any reasoning information out of her, although the 10-year-old isn't really going to know a whole lot. And honestly, even if she did, I remember when I was 10 years old, I really didn't remember anything either. This also reminds me of the way that she used Leia previously, was in an effort as bait, essentially, for Kenobi and to lure him in. It's kind of the same reasoning here. The role of O'Shea Jackson Jr. is now revealed here. He works for the Rebels, kind of as like a commander or a general, but also note that the rebellion really isn't all that much of a thing right now. That's something we learn a little bit later, is that the rebel pilots that they're working with aren't soldiers, as they say. They aren't necessarily willing to lay down their lives for anything. Now, a lot of other fan theories and speculations pointed that O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s potential role here for the Kenobi series could have been a live-action Quinlan Vos, and it's cool to see it revealed that it wasn't necessarily him, but it kind of still leaves the question of that, yeah, Quinlan Vos could still appear here somewhere in the show. Although we should also remember that the show isn't fan service and it's not a cameo show. His character is revealed as somebody named Roken, and for those of you that might have looked into rumors and leaks for the Kenobi show, although we didn't really cover this one here on the channel really at all, is that this was actually kind of his rumored potential role here for the Kenobi show, is that he would be essentially like a commander for the rebellion and by the name of Roken. On top of that, he does reveal that his past wife was actually a Jedi, or at least Force sensitive, and that the Inquisitors had hunted her down. This whole part really kind of does help open Obi-Wan's eyes a little bit more. He has kind of closed himself off from the rest of the galaxy and really the state of it. Of course, he knows the state of the galaxy and how the Empire is in control, but I don't really completely think he knows how bad it really was for these Force sensitive individuals to be hunted down. And on top of that, of how it affected their loved ones. Roken shows them the map of Fortress Inquisitoress on a water moon. And like I had mentioned before, Kenobi is willing to do anything to get Leia to safety, even if he isn't in the best possible shape yet, as Traile continues to remind him of. This is also where those two rebellion pilots tell them that they're not soldiers and they really aren't going to lay down their lives for this. The rebellion is really now just getting started around this time period. It hasn't really been anything for the last 10 years up until nowish. So they don't really see the cause or effect that they have all that much. Obi-Wan is definitely still rusty with his force powers, so he's practicing a little bit on the ship on the way there, but his lightsaber skills are pretty on par, and from the previous episode, they weren't the best, but then again, he was fighting one of the most feared lightsaberist duelists out there in the galaxy, Darth Vader himself, so he can definitely use the lightsaber a little bit here and there to take down some stormtroopers if needed. So it's definitely cool to see that as well. Reva is trying to get some type of information out of Leia, but once again, as I mentioned, it's kind of pointless. She's a 10-year-old girl, and she's not really going to remember anything or really note of any of that type of stuff. At least if I was a 10-year-old in this type of situation, I definitely wouldn't know anything. So it really is pointless for Reva to be doing any of this, I believe. Obi-Wan and Traile arrive on the water moon planet of Fortress Inquisitorus, and I do apologize if I am mispronouncing that. I'm not completely sure on its pronunciation. Anyway, we see Traile sneak in there as an Imperial officer as her disguise is still working. She gets a little bit of a hassle from the security, but other than that, she really does put them into their place. She sneaks into one of the control rooms, and from there, she's able to kind of get a map of the entire base, giving Obi-Wan a direction of where to go and find Leia. Obi-Wan swims through the waters here and is able to get in through a different entrance. This whole scene really reminded me of when him and Qui-Gon Jinn were going to the Gungans, I guess, like city thing on Naboo and the Phantom Menace when they were swimming through the water. This scene right here is honestly probably my only complaint for this episode. It's just my biggest gripe. I don't really know why. I feel like this whole mission really would have been a whole lot easier for Obi-Wan and Traile if Obi-Wan just put on this guy's like stormtrooper costume and was able to sneak around a whole lot better. Then again, there's always the possibility that the costume might have not fit or something, but at least maybe not wear your Jedi robes. Anyway, this scene right here where Reva is trying to force interrogate essentially or read into Leia's mind is very interesting and really does show her force sensitivity, and she doesn't even know it. Leia's force sensitivity is something that's been teased off and on here and there throughout the last couple of episodes, and I really feel like this is our one like giveaway. This is like a straight up hint, like, hey, yeah, she's force sensitive. Reva definitely has some trouble reading into her mind because Leia's able to use her force sensitivity without even knowing it to block out any, I guess, force connections that Reva's trying to get into her mind. Leia has her little droid Lola sneak out and try to attack Reva. I mean, it was kind of a plan, but it didn't really work at all. Reva just took the droid, and I'm assuming this is where she put in the tracker because this is what we see at the end of the episode. Traile runs into a little bit of trouble, but it's really cool to see how easily she's able to take down this officer. She's definitely been in this fight for quite some time, and I'm interested to learn a little bit more about her backstory and her upbringing, what got her into the rebellion, what got her into the Empire. Kenobi this entire time is sneaking around the base here, and it reminds me a lot of Obi-Wan in A New Hope when he's sneaking around the Death Star. He definitely struggles a little bit with it, and they definitely, I think, show that, but he's able to use the Force to knock something over in like a different room, getting these stormtroopers away from him. I really like how Leia is kind of being mischievous with Reva here, kind of treating it like a game a little bit, and is kind of able to trick Reva just a little bit, but doesn't really necessarily. Obi-Wan sneaks around a little bit more and more until he's able to get into the right sector there of the base of where Leia is, until he finds this room, essentially like a tomb of all these dead Jedi from Order 66, and it's truly terrifying and gruesome. Kenobi looks disgusted and horrified and terrified of this whole thing. This like museum that Vader has constructed is what I'm assuming. This just really goes to show how gruesome, dark, and horrid Darth Vader really is during this time period. However, I have a different theory, I guess, for why these bodies might be mummified and down into this layer hidden away, and it has something to do with Palpatine, which I'm going to cover in a separate video, so subscribe and hit the notification bell. Traile takes one for the team, distracting Reva, getting her out of the room that Leia was. That way Obi-Wan can sneak in there. But I honestly kind of feel like she goes a little too far with this one, straight up revealing that, yeah, I'm a spy and I'm working for the rebellion. I mean, finding a spy in your own base is quite dangerous, and the way that the Empire handled this was honestly quite dumb. Reva just had two stormtroopers try to execute her out and put her into a jail cell or something like that as the alarm blared and called Reva. When I tell you I love this whole scene right there, I mean, I loved it. It reminded me so much of Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One, as well as The Force Unleashed, just bringing those lightsabers into the light here, lighting up a pitch black dark room, and then taking out these two stormtroopers was really cool to see. And then of course rescue Leia and get her out of there. However, I feel like Kenobi gets a little sloppy right here as he reveals himself to one of the pro droids or security droids that was roaming around. This reminded me a whole lot of Daiyu, of when essentially every bounty hunter, which was pretty much the entire population of episode 2 Daiyu on the planet of Daiyu, and everybody all of a sudden is trying to hunt down Leia and Obi-Wan. As I had already mentioned though throughout the rest of this video, is that it's so cool to see Obi-Wan really get back into action here with his lightsaber. When one of those bullets deflects and it hits the glass, making a crack, it really reveals, I think, Kenobi using his force powers and him truly needing to use his force powers in an effort to keep the water in and not letting it spew all over into the hallway. And for when the stormtroopers were trying to get in through the door, this reminded me as a direct parallel from the end of Rogue One when those rebel troopers are trying to get through the door away from Vader. But as we do see in the episode, the water rushes in, taking out all these troopers, and Kenobi's able to get to safety on the other side of the door. However, they're on a little bit of a time crunch as there's more water seeping a little bit through. Although that little bit of water that was seeping through isn't really anything later on in the episode. However, one complaint I have seen a lot recently about this episode, and overall, ever since we saw it in the original official trailer for the Kenobi show, is the Purge Troopers having a different designed helmet. We've already seen Purge Troopers in Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, and they have more like an airborne type of trooper helmet. And so the Purge Troopers that we see in Kenobi have a different design helmet, and while yes, this is done on purpose, they know that it's different. It's supposed to be a different design. It's simply for two reasons. It's either that they have a different helmet because it's supposed to, I guess, signify that they're like stationed on like a base type of thing, and they aren't kind of like on the hunt for Jedi type of thing, or it's supposed to signify like time period wise, like they have updated helmets now than from when we saw it in Jedi Fallen Order. However, even then, it wouldn't really be that much of a big time gap, at most a couple of months, because Jedi Fallen Order and the Obi Wan Kenobi show are taking place pretty much at the same time. It's now also revealed that the other Inquisitors, the fifth brother and this other lady, I'm not completely sure which sister she's supposed to be, they're also here on the planet of the base, making tensions a little bit higher. The way that they were trying to hide Leia within Obi-Wan's like big coat here reminded me a lot of Muppets, or like pretty much any Disney Channel show kind of. It's definitely, I think, intended to be a little bit funny. Now, just before they were able to reach the ship and get off the planet here, Reva stops them and it's like having everybody in the area, which is like at least 100 stormtroopers, aiming their weapons at them. Just in the nick of time, those two rebel pilots come in, swoop into the hangar, and take out pretty much all of these stormtroopers. They're flying the same type of speeders that we see in the Empire Strikes Back as well. They swoop down and pick up Obi-Wan, Tala, and Leia and take off as Wade, the other trooper, sticks around a little bit, plays around with Reva, shooting at her. Now, I honestly kind of thought it was a little dumb that this didn't like kill her, honestly. Like, these are huge blaster bullets coming from a spaceship. How was her lightsaber able to like deflect this is kind of my only question. Anyway, Reva picks up a bomb canister and throws it at Wade's ship, and it takes him out. R.I.P. to Wade. The fifth brother stands there with Reva and looks at her in disgust as he knows that she heavily mishandled this entire situation, letting Leia go, having Obi-Wan in the base, unknown and secretly, and on top of that, having Tala, an undercover rebel spy in the base as well. He knows that she's going to be in some deep trouble. And I will have to say, I was a little surprised, and at that, maybe even a little disappointed we didn't get to see those spinning helicopter lightsabers in this scene. Just as the fifth brother thought, Darth Vader, Lord Vader, is not too happy about how Reva handled this entire situation, lifting her in the air and force choking her. Now, if Darth Vader knew that Reva knew that his true identity was Anakin Skywalker, he probably would have killed her here. Vader simply spares her, however, because she says that she put a tracker on the ship, which, as we learned, is actually Lola, Leia's little droid. Now, these rebels are especially saddened over the death of Wade because this isn't something that's common. It's not something that happens every day for the rebellion, is where they lay down their lives for this cause, because the rebellion, well, it really isn't all that formed right now. Also, this definitely sparks more of an interest and connection between Kenobi and Leia, because she really knows that he cares for her and is able and is willing to do anything for her to save her. Leia's droid Lola peeks out of her jacket pocket, revealing a red eye. Now, Lola is the tracker, as I had mentioned, but she might be infected with some type of imperial virus, is what my guess is. That there is the full breakdown. Now, to be honest with you guys and fair with you guys, there really weren't too many Easter eggs or things you may or may have not missed here and there type of thing, but nonetheless, it's still fun to go through, analyze this type of stuff. This was actually the shortest episode by far for the Obi Wan Kenobi show, coming in at like 36 minutes with and without credits. However, as I had mentioned in my reaction video, is that I prefer to have a shorter episode that contributes to the story rather than having a longer, drawn out type of episode that is just kind of filled with some filler type of stuff and doesn't contribute anything. I'm definitely really curious to see where we're going to go from here. It turns out that none of my predictions or theories, kind of like the episode 4 preview video we did yesterday, came true here for this episode, and that's perfectly fine. The Grand Inquisitor wasn't revealed to still be alive. He will eventually, probably will in the next episode. Forced Qui-Gon Jinn didn't talk to Obi Wan Kenobi, and we didn't get any Reva backstory or flashbacks, which which is perfectly fine, because that's the fun of theorizing and making predictions and talking about this stuff, is that it's kind of fun to see if it comes true or if it doesn't come true, and most of the time it's not going to be true. We're going to be talking all types of Obi Wan Kenobi theories, speculations, and all types of other Star Wars news, rumors, leaks for Mando Season 3, the Ahsoka Tano upcoming show. So if you guys are into that type of stuff, hit the subscribe button and join us today. Drop a like in the video if you enjoy it, as it really helps the channel, and check out our Instagram on official Star Wars for more Star Wars content, guys. Thanks so much for watching today's video. As always, may the Force be with you. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.